KC Sports Tonight. I'm Marleah Campbell here with Gabe Swartz on a surprisingly busy Tuesday when it comes to sports news in Kansas City and around the country, honestly, which is where we start with the wide receiver shuffle, as we call it here today. Let's get to a little bit of the news. Okay, as you can see there, the Raiders trade Davante Adams to the Jets with a little reunion there. Browns Amari Cooper to the Buffalo Bills. And just hours later, we find out that the Bills are releasing an old friend in Marquez Valdes-Scantling, the former Chiefs receiver who was with Kansas City last year for their Super Bowl run, left for Buffalo, and is now looking for a new team. 3 weeks ahead of the trade deadline. Gabe, let's go ahead and kind of combine these first 2 points. The receiver shuffle today. Interesting on its own right, but then you add the context of the Chiefs down what we thought were going to be their top 2 receivers this season in Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice for the rest of the regular season at a minimum. How are you feeling today with all of this, the flurry of news that we got?
Well, I'm not going to overreact to Davante Adams to the Jets. I think it's probably something that makes him happy.
Sure.
I think that it's probably something that makes Aaron Rodgers happy.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's anything that really significantly impacts the AFC playoff race. I think that in general, football fans and the media and all of us overreact to big name wide receivers moving places. And in general, history has said that unless your name is like Randy Moss, you don't typically impact winning as much as you just go to a different uniform and put up stats in a different place. See Tyreek Hill in Miami. And Davante Adams in Vegas compared to what he was in Green Bay. Like, he got paid in Vegas. He didn't win in Vegas. If you watched Netflix's receiver show in the offseason, he wasn't happy in Vegas. He was frequently upset and throwing his helmet and not pleased by the fact that he was working with Jimmy Garoppolo and Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell after his buddy Derek Carr got released and got shipped out of town. So I'm not going to – I think that people who got their hopes up in Davante Adams and him going to the Chiefs was never going to happen. It was also never going to happen for the Bills because neither of those teams had the money to fit him in. The Jets did. The Jets kind of seemed like they were always the destination, and it was the closest thing to one of those NBA trades where the guy got to go where he wanted because he wanted to go to the Jets. He wanted to go back to working with Aaron Rodgers. So he got what he wanted. Amari Cooper was significantly cheaper. I think that the Bills the Bills who are acquiring him only have like $850,000 left to pay him for the rest of the season, which means that financially the Chiefs could have fit him in. Now, whether the Browns would have been willing to make a deal with the Chiefs, I mean, we saw last year there was a report that the Chiefs wanted to make a trade for Deontay Johnson with the Steelers, and the Steelers didn't want to send him to the Chiefs. They didn't want to send him to the best team in the AFC. So whether the Chiefs make moves or don't make moves doesn't necessarily mean that they're not trying to.
Yeah.
And I think that the hopes are dwindling on what the Chiefs are going to be capable of doing because their deadline move last year was McCole Hardman. So, I mean, yes, that's a guy who scored the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl, but I think that's more about the productivity that Patrick Mahomes can do with kind of anybody than it is about what the Chiefs can actually do to upgrade. So it might be a sadly heavy dose of Juju Smith-Schuster for the rest of the season.
Yeah, so a lot of thoughts on this.
Yes.
One is the very surface level effect, which is that the Chiefs have the Raiders in 2 weeks and then the Bills in week 11. But 2 is the bigger picture. I mean, you look at these guys. Gabe, you know, as soon as the MVS news broke, I walked over to your side of the office and said, what do you think? You don't think that they'll break, because they have a habit of bringing back old receivers. We saw this in McCole Hardman. We saw this in Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, this is kind of a telltale sign of Kansas City because this is a complicated offensive system. Andy Reid and Matt Nagy like guys that know a thing or two about how it works so that the learning curve is a lot simpler, bringing in guys mid-season. But MVS runs a very similar route pattern to Xavier Worthy, who's a younger guy, faster,
Justin Watson, who does it better.
Justin Watson, that's true as well.
And
you go. I was going to ask you, do you think
I really think
this
that,
is done?
like, aside from all the joke, like, it wouldn't be the most productive move in the world. It wouldn't be a season saver.
It would be a cheap one.
It would be a cheap one, and it would be something where he's been good in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But I think that the key difference between the Chiefs running that guy was really successful in our building, and then he didn't have success elsewhere, and we could bring him back for cheap.
Yeah.
A la what the Patriots did for so many years with letting guys go, and then they played poorly elsewhere and came back for cheap. Is Kareem Hunt never had a problem with playing well in the system. Juju Smith-Schuster did not have a problem with playing well in his 1 year here. MVS frustrated a lot of people because he, A, did not do what Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid were asking him to do in terms of running to the correct spot, and B, catching the football.
Once he was in the spot,
So whether people liked him in the building or not, the only like upside thing you can say as a team guy is that he was a really, really good run blocker as a wide receiver, and that's just not something worth like bringing back. So
I think you bring up a really good point, especially with the most two recent moves in Kareem Hunt, not the same position, but an offensive weapon you bring back, and Juju Smith-Schuster. Both of those guys were low production relatively in their last year before coming back to Kansas City. But you're right that when they were here, albeit for Hunt 6 years ago, they were putting up really good numbers. So you wonder if it's more of a fit thing than, a capability thing. But MVS played really well in the playoffs. Kudos to him. That was kind of like a bow on his tenure in Kansas City for me. Wow, this regular season was pretty frustrating. It got rough there for a while, but you can go out on top. You helped this team in the playoffs, made some big plays, especially in the AFC Championship game, that divisional round, and you can go out on top with the Super Bowl. The only reason I think it's a possibility is because the Chiefs are so light at that position right now. I mean, when it looked like McCole Hardman might have a chance of not playing against the Saints because he was on the injury report with a knee injury kind of last minute, it was like, oh my gosh, there are 4 healthy wide receivers on this roster. And you've seen Andy Reid go to a heavy tight end set, which I think we'll continue to see a lot more of. But Dave Tobe was talking about potentially calling up Nico Remigio. He mentioned some of the practice squad guys in his press conference mainly for returns, but to bring other receivers kind of out of that slot. So I don't think it'll happen, but I also freezing cold takes, I'm not going to say absolutely not.
I mean, if it happens, I'm not going to be like, oh my goodness, I never saw that coming.
Yeah.
But I would just be like, are we serious? Like, we're really doing this again?
Let's broaden the scope a little bit here, because speaking of what the Chiefs probably are not going to do, what do we think they are going to do? Because we're 3 weeks today away from the trade deadline. 5-0 off to a great start, but as we know, the injuries have really piled up early. Isaiah Pacheco could be back in the next couple of weeks. He was given a 6 to 8 week return. I think it was 3 weeks ago now. So we're talking a month to 2 months now, hopefully before the end of the calendar year. Speaking of, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, as you mentioned right before the show, before we were rolling, Gabe, activated his practice window, so we could potentially see him soon. But the Chiefs have been known to make some, pretty bombshell moves. I mean, Kadarius Toney was a big one a couple years ago. McCole Hardman, as you already mentioned. Do you see the Chiefs bringing in anyone who could have significant impact let's start on the offensive side of the ball, because I think your defense is
I don't think that they're going to make any defensive moves. Man, I really think I think they'll try to make a wide receiver move. I mean, I mentioned Deontay Johnson. Maybe the Panthers are willing to eat some of the salary to get draft picks, considering they're a team that doesn't have their own second-round pick this year because they're still dealing with the ramifications of the Bryce Young-Caleb Williams trade. So maybe they want in that Amari Cooper price tag range. And I think based on how much is still left for Deontay Johnson to be paid by them, the Panthers would actually have to eat some salary to let the Chiefs have him. But they're an NFC team, so they're not one of the AFC teams who's been spurned and hurt by the Chiefs beating them in the playoffs or beating them in the regular season. And so maybe Carolina is a willing trade partner more than anybody else. I know that some people were saying Calvin Ridley with the Titans. He was 8 targets and no catches on Sunday in that game against the Colts. So he's frustrated, but he's got a lot of money, and I don't see that happening. And then the dream people that have been thrown out there of, oh, could the Tyreek Hill reunion? That's not happening. So I think that in general the NFL trade deadline is overrated in terms of impact. Like even the Kadarius Toney trade, which was impactful 2 years ago, he only had like 200 yards.
Also a Super Bowl touchdown though.
So yeah,
kind of
I mean, yeah, the last four
yeah.
Super Bowl touchdowns for Mahomes throwing the ball,
that's fair.
are not necessarily the
half of them to trade
the
deadline.
studs.
Yeah, I mean, you could have put anyone there. Not anyone, but I see what you're saying in terms of it was not necessarily McCall Hardman or Kadarius Toney running miraculous routes. It was just Patrick Mahomes being Patrick Mahomes with his weapons.
But they've got time, and this week against the 49ers is going to be telling, because I think if they go out there and they put together another performance like they did against the Saints, where 26 points was about as few as they probably could have, considering they were 2 for 7 in the red zone that night. If they're really successful against San Francisco and the offense looks good, I know that it's going to be a significant burden on Mahomes, and people don't love I think the Chiefs are 32nd in the league in explosive play rate. So it is a lot of dinking and dunking and long drives, which is stressful and not the greatest way to play modern offense. But if they look good this weekend, I don't think that they're going to have much urgency to do much.
Perfect segue, because it feels like it's been forever since we've been able to talk about an upcoming Chiefs game. Chiefs getting some much-needed recovery time during the bye week. Now getting ready for a 49ers team that's 3-3. They've had their ups and downs. And they're also coming off of a mini-bye. They played Thursday Night Football against the Seahawks back in week 6.
Yep.
What are the storylines, I guess, you're watching for as we get ready for a Super Bowl round 2 coming off the bye, which Andy Reid obviously has a very good history?
Well, the Chiefs are 4-0 in their last 4 against the 49ers. That's 2 regular season games and 2 Super Bowls. And so it's weird that this is America's game of the week. It's the Brady and Burkhardt broadcast crew for Fox, and I weirdly it's it feels like it matters way more to people in the Bay than it does to people in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And I don't think that there's any way for you to feel differently as a Chiefs fan, although I've got plenty of friends from college who are from the Bay and root for the Niners, and this is one that they circle on the calendar. So I think the interesting thing is how the players and coaching staff are locked in for this, because you would think, oh, it's an out-of-conference matchup. It's not one of those where the Chiefs lost several out-of-conference matchups last year. They lost the Lions. They lost the Packers. It didn't really end up mattering as much, and those losses just don't matter as much as losing to an AFC team. So if they lose, I don't think it's nearly one of the crazy consequential games on their schedule, but it is one of the marquee games on the schedule. So I think it could shape the national perspective of the Chiefs more than it would actually impact their season-long goals.
Yeah.
Because even if the Niners get this win, it's going to be like, well, if we see you again in February, let's talk again. So I think that's kind of it's a big game, but it doesn't have me nervous or like, man, this one really, really, really matters.
It's funny because I think the way you're putting it is spot on, which is the 49ers have kind of been a footnote in this magical run for the Chiefs, while on the flip side of things, it's like, we cannot get these guys number, and they've taken us down in so many critical situations. Like, we need to – it's more of a revenge kind of mentality, but should be a good one. I'm interested to see how the offense continues growing in the wake of Rashee Rice's absence. I mentioned this a little bit earlier in the show. It's interesting to see, kind of predictably, lean a lot heavier on the tight end group. Xavier Worthy with another big touchdown, and Justin Watson doing what Justin Watson does. So, big one coming up on Sunday, 3:25. But we got to move on to Boys in Blue. Royal season obviously over, but the honors keep rolling in. 4 Gold Glove finalists on this team, including a catcher not named Salvador Perez. Freddie Fermin in this list. The obvious one, Bobby Witt Jr. and pitchers Seth Lugo and Cole Reagans. Gabe, I believe this is the most.
Jared pointed out it was tied for the most
in the league
finalists for any team in the MLB.
Yeah.
So that's pretty impressive. I mean, yes, the Royals, a lot was made about the offense and how great they were with hitting and runners in scoring position for most of the year, and then they were the worst offense in the league in September. But they were a really good team in large part because they pitched well and because they played great defense. And you have to play great defense when you play at Kauffman Stadium because of what is asked of you. However, none of these are outfielders, so I think that's kind of notable. But part of the reason that Bobby Witt Jr. had the season that he had from a statistical standpoint and from a advanced statistical standpoint of WAR and all those kinds of things is that defensively he was incredible. He was the best defensive shortstop in the AL. I think that he's the one that I'm most confident is actually going to win this award. Freddie Fermin might get his as well because he was incredible at throwing runners out on attempted steals. So yeah, I think this is just another notch in the cap for the 2024 Royals. Is just that they are going to be in the conversation for all these awards in a way that they aren't normally.
Usually
and so that's a refreshing thing. Yeah,
and I think what I really like about this list too is a lot has been made of Bobby Witt Jr. being a MVP candidate, and to know that he has that supporting cast around him, and there are names not on this list who really stand out. Vinny Pasquantino had a good year outside of his injury. Salvador Perez, an obvious staple of this unit. It just makes you really confident about kind of, I think, the future as we look forward to next season already. Okay, a little bit of time left, so want to run on the Kansas City Current this weekend, sealing home field advantage for the playoffs. So we will see at least one Kansas City Current game in the playoffs here in Kansas City. And we'll also, of course, see the NWSL Championship here in Kansas City, whether the Current are playing in it or not, because that game, CPKC Stadium has been chosen for that for obvious reasons. The first stadium for women built in the world for a professional sports team. Gabe, just your thoughts on the current season, and specifically when we're sitting here right now with 3 games left in the regular season, secured a home playoff spot. I think we've gotten to the point of the year where we're so deep and so used to this team playing well that we forget they finished second to the last in the table last year, and we're having a really rough year. Just your thoughts on kind of the resurgence of this team and what Vlatko has been able to accomplish.
I think that's the thing that stands out to me is how much success they've had despite a new coach this year. And to get back into it and to have things line up of great success, kind of perfect timing with hosting the NWSL Championship, where if you could get to the end of it, I think last time they made it was in DC, so it wasn't necessarily like the easiest travel. But I think that the playoffs should be something to look forward to, and they've got as good of a chance as anybody in the league to win it all.
Yeah, a couple things I'm really excited for. I mean, you obviously hope the Current are going to be in that game because the city is just going to be on fire. I mean, they sell out regular season games. 11,500 people fit in that stadium, so you could expect activations across the city. Power and light would be crazy. A couple years ago when they made the NWSL Championship match, the city was lit up teal, and that was really cool. So now that the stadium is built and functional, that would obviously be exciting. But 2, you can't talk about this team without talking about what Temwa Chawinga has accomplished. 19 goals this season. That sets an NWSL and subsequently obviously a club record for single season scoring. 6 game winning goals, also a record. Just really been phenomenal and fun for this team to watch. So 3 more games, including Saturday at home. That one kicks off at noon. Beautiful fall weather for that. Should be another sellout. So on that note, Gabe, thank you so much for your time as I shatter this microphone. Appreciate your time. A lot to talk about this week as we look forward to another Chiefs game and a big weekend of college football. We'll talk more on that tomorrow. But for now, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.